Greetings, I'm Jonathan Kerrigan, and today I'll be talking about limitations of knowledge and its influence on ethics. So, to give kind of a synopsis of my take on philosophy and my personal philosophy within itself, I would have to say I veer much of the world through a physicist's mind or the mind of a neuroscientist. I'm fairly regimented in the way I see the world, and I deduce it based off of logic and some of the only tools that I think that are actually proven have given us adequate results. So when you apply what is called intertheoretic reductionism, which is taking the hierarchy of the sciences, mathematic, logic on top, and then you have the subsidiant categories underneath it with biology, chemistry, and the likes, but below it, sociology probably somewhere on the lower, closer to the humanities as we progress down the lattice that is the hierarchy. We see a structure that really doesn't allot for free will, in my humble opinion. When I look upon this metric and this system of analyzing reality, it seems as if sociologically a lot of what we do are based off of memes or systems of knowledge that we have culturally implemented, that have culturally perpetuated within the system in order to keep themselves as a entity of knowledge alive. Furthermore, not just sociologically, I look biologically and chemically, which, when deduced and vectored into the mind of, us anthropoid apes, we don't pre-think the chemistry that is occurring within our brains, within the microcosms of our mind. It's sodium, potassium ion transfers. We don't think those into existence in order to create action potentials within our dendrites. It simply occurs, and then we have a matrix of neural clusters that fire. We don't think, oh, hey, I want X compartment in my brain, this specific neuron to fire. It simply does. So I withhold as a truth that we aren't necessarily at all in control of those actions. Furthermore, when you deduce it kind of even more, it gets even wonkier. Traditionally, in my past, looking at the world in Newtonian space, it might make sense that we have atoms and things that aren't probabilistic in nature. But then you get into quantum theory, and it gets really, really weird. There's your book, Andria. It gets really wonky with the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, stating that the more we know its velocity, the less we know its momentum, and vice versa. And things such as the photon double slit experiment, which showed that there's something really wonky going on with wave-particle duality within photons. The fact that two photons can be rendered on a film at once implies a whole slew of things, and the Occam's razor to that is really multiple worlds hypothesis, which doesn't seem quite like a Occam's razor, but who said reality was a easy nut to crack. So, with reference to this, it's quite confounding the facts that we really can know, because if we're not pre-thinking the chemistry within our brains, and if we're not really in control of the probabilistic motion of the subatomic particles that are comprising that chemistry within our brains, what are we in fact in control of? I can say I will blink in 3 seconds, and it seems as if I had done that with intention. However, a neuroscientist might be able to open up my brain and attract, with an EEG, and maybe give diodes attach them onto my scalp and be able to make that decision and know that I was going to say that. Maybe up to recent studies showing anywhere from 7 to 11 seconds before, they occur. And that has a slew of ethical implications, because if we aren't in fact in charge of our actions, how do we politically base society? It's quite the conundrum, really, because if somebody kills his wife, and then we open up his brain and we see that there's a large mass next to his amygdala, which is in charge of, motive response, anxiety, and that sort of thing, aggression, whatnot. Was it him, or was it the tumor that was pressed against his amygdala? And, within this famous case study, I believe he actually was able to get cleared because of that notion, and as have others, because of, tumors and the likes. So it's quite odd, to say the least, when you view reality in this way, because it seems as if the sentences I'm completing are sentences of my own, but then I'm not completely bringing them into fruition. So when I kind of relate that to ethics, I'm altruistic in nature, because I think humans intuitively have some sense of altruistic behavior, because it's more evolutionarily beneficial for them to have, you play nice and others will play nice with you. It helps pass on our genes, just like our memes are passed on, culturally and within our epistemological boundaries that we kind of maintain in society. It's, to me, a very complicated machine. And, Lacrosse's demon and chaos theory would really imply that it is understandable if we had the tools to understand it. And that's a completely other conversation for AI intelligence and the singularity, and if that's plausible within itself, the fringes of physics with fusion being a potential, and etc., etc. But regardless, it's, to me, ethics and studying this course has been quite eye-opening, especially for somebody who has such a peculiar kind of take on reality. I don't think it's necessarily abnormal within the scientific community to think what I necessarily think about free will and the arrow of time within itself. But it does seem as if we have to understand these metaphysical implications, or else how can we politically construct society? We have to have some sort of structure, or else we have anarchy. We won't be able to, as from the readings have showed, have societies more based off of more than 150 people unless we are able to tell stories and able to congeal information into singular units and discrete packets of cultural phenomenon. And to kind of amalgamate all this information into a singular philosophy, I really take the standpoint of skepticism. I'm not necessarily, well, maybe I am in a sense a moral relativist, and thinking that ethics is a man-made creation, and because we have semantics and language, we're able to discuss these sort of things, like this conversation we're having here. But that doesn't necessarily discredit them from being important issues. Metaphysical and anything that is contained within a meta prefix isn't always on the top of the same hierarchy within its sense of efficiency and usefulness. That being said, we might not have free will, but we must act as if we do, or else we couldn't have political enterprises. And as I said earlier, we would have anarchy. So ultimately, I'm kind of coming up on the 10 minutes. That's my personal philosophy, and basically what I've deduced over the past 20 some years of my life. Thank you.